Excited to take your questions right here on the San Francisco 49ers Report. My name is Chase Sr., and what I want to do, open up the floor, take questions, hot takes, and some analysis from our real ones, our viewers and our subscribers, as we discuss and chop it up with the latest Niners news and rumors. We are shooting for 158,000 subscribers. I think we do a better job than any other YouTube channel out there that covers the Niners with interacting with the audience. I don't see a lot of people doing a lot of mailbags on YouTube. We do it here in addition to giving you informative, insightful, thought-provoking, creative Niners content. We're 370 people away from 158,000 subs. We can get there with this video. Just lock us in and hit that sub button right now. Let's start things off with Nelson VR. What do you think Brock Purdy is worth? Do you think they will get a deal done with him? I do think that the Niners ultimately get a deal done with Brock Purdy. But I think it could take a little while, especially with some of the recent developments on that front. And I don't think the Niners should pay Brock Purdy $60+ million per year. And I think that after they've had some time after the year to examine things a little bit, to take an in-depth look at their financial situation, they should not give him $60 million per year. And I don't think they want to get bullied by one of their players and their player's agent in a contract negotiation having to do with the contract extension like they have the last couple of years with the likes of Brandon Aiyuk, Nick Bosa, and Deebo Samuel. And so there is some chatter that the Niners starting offer to Purdy is about $45 million per season. I don't think that Purdy will sign that deal, but I think that if he signs a deal somewhere in that realm, I think it's a win for San Francisco because it just allows you to build up the rest of your team. And as we saw in 2024, Brock Purdy isn't one of those alien quarterbacks who can make do with subpar parts. He needs parts around him. And I know the NFL salary cap is going to continue to go up, but just because other teams have overpaid quarterbacks doesn't mean the Niners should do the same. Billy Bob, $5. I said it all last year. Deebo Samuel, Brandon Aiyuk would be traded. Aiyuk is next. Isn't it funny, revisionist history? Because Deebo Samuel blocked me when I talked last offseason about the possibility of him getting traded. A year later, he requests a trade, and he gets traded. It's funny how people will be in the comments section saying, Chase, you're chasing clickbait. Deebo and Aiyuk aren't going to get dealt. You're crazy. Deebo, dealt. Niners taking calls on Brandon Aiyuk. At the NFL Combine, I asked John Lynch specifically about the Niners trading Aiyuk and fielding calls on him. He did not shoot it down. Some of these things, to me, were easy to foresee because the Super Bowl window is not going to last forever. They were a high cash spending team, and at some point they needed to reset the team a little bit. They didn't quite need to rebuild, and they don't need to rebuild. But as far as the salary cap goes, yeah, they do need to tinker with some of the salaries on their team. And they did that with Deebo. They're trying to do it potentially with Brandon Aiyuk. And at this point, won't surprise me if Aiyuk is dealt. I just find it surprising if a team is willing to take on that contract, give up draft compensation for that price tag coming off that severe injury. Mr. Block Ice, did you hear any updates as far as Myles Garrett trade talks? No real updates on that front, but Niners cornerback Deommodore Lenoir stirring the pot a little bit. He tweeted out this week, Myles. We heard what Fred Warner and George Kittle said about landing a player of that ability. And they said, look, we're all for bringing in players like this. George Kittle said, we could be good friends. Fred Warner said he'd fit right in. And so no real developments of the Niners' interest in Myles Garrett, but the players seem to be interested, which is very interesting. John Craighead, what's up, Chase? Love the show. Thank you, brother. I appreciate that. If the Niners cannot get Drew Dahlman, who is your number 2 free agent? I don't really have a number 2 free agent center. What I think the plan should be for San Francisco is drafting a center day 2 or day 3. There are some really good centers in this draft class. Gray Zabel's one of them out of North Dakota State. I'm also interested in what Drake Nugent can become, who is a UDFA who the Niners signed after the draft last year out of Michigan. Started every game for Michigan. Started on a team that played bully ball up front. He's a good athlete. He'd be a good scheme fit. Michigan went on to win the national championship. Smart and cerebral player who prior to Michigan played at Stanford. I just do not want to see Jake Brendel being the starting center for this team in 2025. It's not good enough. It's not strong enough. Simple as that. What say you, though? Which offensive free agent do you want the Niners to sign? As always, interested in all of you sharing your thoughts down in the comments section. Joe G, a real one, has been watching the show for a long time. Myles Garrett or Trey Hendrickson? I prefer Joey Bosa because the Niners could get a family discount. Yeah, so all different players in their own respects, right? Myles Garrett's 29. Trey Hendrickson is 30. Both of those players, you need to trade for them. Myles Garrett, younger and better than Trey Hendrickson. So you need to squander a first and or second round pick at least for Myles Garrett. For Trey Hendrickson, and you probably need to give Myles Garrett a contract extension. For Trey Hendrickson, he's going into the final year of his deal. $16 million, non-guaranteed. You'd probably have to guarantee that contract and give him a contract extension. He's a little bit older. He's 30, but my goodness, he's still playing awesome football. 17 and a half sacks in each of the last 2 years. That's 35 sacks, leading all players in the NFL the last 2 seasons. If I'm the Niners, I'm calling the Browns and the Bengals about both of those players. I want to know what it takes. And I think Trey Hendrickson is going to be the odd man out. Joe Burrow has said, I need us to be aggressive. And I think the Bengals are going to do that by re-signing Jamar Chase and T. Higgins. Because they think that they can win with offense. Although last year their defense stunk. But can you imagine Nick Bosa with Myles Garrett and or Trey Hendrickson? The thing with Joey Bosa is that he's a free agent. So you don't have to give up anything in a trade to bring him in. You can sign him for much cheaper than the going rate for Hendrickson and Garrett. But the concerns with him, the last time he played 16-plus games was in 2021. The last time he had double-digit sacks was in 2021. But what if you get him for like $5 to $10 million? I'd entertain it. You hope and hold your breath that he can stay healthy because when on the field, he has been very productive. Texas 575. Your thoughts on being able to obtain Cam Skattebo in the draft or if he's even worth going after. I like Cam Skattebo. I think he's physical. I think the Niners have questions at running back. Christian McCaffrey's coming off bilateral Achilles tendonitis and a PCL injury in his knee. Isaac Guerendo is injury prone. The Niners might lose Jordan Mason, who's a restricted free agent. And Cam Skattebo is a fascinating player because he's very physical. He has a good center of gravity, really good balance. He's versatile. He can run it. He can catch it. Ideally, you take him in the third round, but a team might like him in the second. But I think that Kyle Shanahan could really have some fun with using a player like that. The testing was pretty good at the combine. He did not run the 40-yard dash, but everything else pretty explosive. I also think that you can use him as a fullback, and he would be much cheaper than a player like Kyle Juszczyk. The Lord Shasta. What up, man? Your thoughts, or who do y'all have us drafting in rounds 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7? My goodness. We would be here for a long time if I went through my mock rounds 3 through 7. I'll give you positions of need. Right tackle, guard, center, defensive end, defensive tackle. Those are the biggest needs on this football team. After the trade of Debo, wide receiver becomes a need. You need another corner. You need another linebacker. You might need a safety. Those are the biggest needs on this team. Tight end, too. You can address that in the draft as well. Bryant Cowart, what's up, brother? $5 super chat, writing you from Brazil right now. How about that? Can the Niners win a championship with 2 new receivers next year? For sure. No doubt about it. No doubt about it. You know, in 2022, the Eagles made it to the Super Bowl with Davante Smith in his second year, and that was after they traded for A.J. Brown. Wide receivers can get acclimated with their quarterback. And the Niners, you bank on Brock Purdy bouncing back. You bank on Kyle Shanahan having a better year. You hope that Christian McCaffrey can stay healthy. You have to improve the offensive line. But 2 new wide receivers, I don't think prohibits you from being able to win a championship. And this Niners team is still plenty talented. Have a great trip in Brazil, my brother. Wild Child. Is Davante Adams a real possibility or only if Aiyuk gets traded? I think it's a real possibility regardless. Whether Aiyuk's on this team or not, I think Davante Adams is a real possibility. You know, when the likes of some of the top NFL insiders are saying he could have interest in the Niners or does have interest in the Niners, and the Niners having interest in him, when people are saying that he wants to return to the West Coast, only a certain amount of teams on the West Coast. And Davante Adams is still playing at a very high level. And he gives the Niners a wide receiver and a prototype that I think they want after trading Debo. They want to remake that room a little bit. Footwork, route running, size. Debo did not have good footwork, did not have good route running, did not have good size. He was unique in the way that he could pick up yards after the catch, and he was a threat for a house call anytime he had his hands on the football. But when teams started to play press man, he couldn't beat it. Davante Adams can. And he's still playing at a really high level. Should the Niners go after Davante Adams? S for sign, P for pass. Isn't it crazy how he's like 31, and then Jerry Rice played until he was, 40, 41? It's another decade for Davante Adams. Wouldn't that be nuts?